What's up, middle school? Demaria here. I'm coming to you with our gospel project lesson for today that you'll dive deeper into here in just a minute. Pastor Dane talked last week about Jacob being a deceiver. And we see in this story right after that, today we're going to talk about Jacob's love being deep and persistent but flawed. And so Jacob, right after he deceives his father, he flees by the advice of his mother. He flees, and so he leaves his home and he goes off. And while he's working one day, far away from his home, he's working and he finds a woman that he's very fond of named Rachel. And so he ends up meeting Rachel, and he ends up meeting Rachel's father and asks for Rachel's hand in marriage. But her father actually agrees. They come to an agreement, and that if Jacob worked 7 years, then at that point he would be able to have Rachel's hand in marriage. So at the end of that 7 years, they come back to that agreement. And then Jacob does marry one of the daughters of the man named Laban, which Rachel is one of his daughters, but he ends up marrying the wrong daughter. And so Laban deceived the deceiver, Jacob. And so when he finds out that he's actually going to marry Leah, part of him is ungrateful. He's ungrateful, and he actually shows favoritism to the other sister, Rachel, even though Leah was the first one to be married in that custom because she was the oldest sister. And so he shows favorites. And so it's so crazy how we see the deceiver get deceived, and a family where favoritism was so prevalent. And now it goes down until Jacob when he shows favoritism. And so the craziest thing about this whole story is Jacob's love for Rachel was so great that he agreed to work 7 years. And even at the end of that 7 years, when he had married one person, the other sister, they made another agreement, and Jacob was going to work another 7 years just to make sure that he married Rachel. So his love was deep, and his love was persistent, and it was like so devoted just to marry Rachel. But then his love was still flawed because he showed favoritism toward Rachel. And Leah, I had to guess that she felt kind of unloved in this situation because she waited her whole life, and she was the first person that was supposed to get married in her family, but didn't. She did get married, and even when she got married, her husband, Jacob, did not appreciate her. And I wonder how that made Leah feel. She probably felt unloved, unappreciated, and some of her worth probably went down the drain in her mind. And so today you're going to be talking about how, yes, we as humans, we do love. But at the end of the day, our love is flawed. But we have a Savior who loved us and died for us in spite of those flaws. And so even when our love fails to meet the standards, God's love never fails to meet the standards. And so you'll dive deeper here in a second. Thank you. Oh, that's not a good way to end it. But we can cut right there, right? Oh, freak. Somebody's distracting me. Somebody's literally calling me.
Like that. That's not what you're going to end it. And
I
then
forgot.
just, put a text up and go, yeah, it really wasn't, but we stuck with it or something like that.
What was the last thing I said? You'll dive deeper into this here in just a second. So turn your attention to your leaders. Can I end on that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. And you're going to dive deeper into this message here in just a second. So turn your teacher to, oh my gosh.
3, 2, 1.
So you'll dive deeper into this lesson here in just a second and turn your attention to your leaders.